This is the machine.
Welcome back. We're at episode 23. We pick up the story where the engine is in the car. Obviously, you've seen that in a previous video. And now I need to check that it generates oil pressure. That's the main thing, I guess, for ensuring the engine is working well. And then there's lots of other little bits and pieces that I need to do, because this is essentially the final activities before we try and start it. See if this boat anchor is a boat anchor or not. I know I've been saying this for ages, but there's always something else that has to happen. And so in this one, I get waylaid majorly in the fuel tank cradle. And so I try and remake it. It's a bit of a Frankenstein cable because I ran out of gas on my welder, and normally I do gas welding and I do shit gas welding, but I've discovered that I can do even shitter welding using gasless, even by exchanging the polarity and stuff. It's awful, but anyway, I persisted stupidly when I should have gone and driven and got another bottle. But anyway, you'll be able to see this. So I've got Frankenstein's Cradle, spent a lot of time doing that, and then there's some other stuff: fuel pressure, oil pressure, fuel distributor again. We do a bit more on that. That never fails to amuse. Anyway, let's get into it. So I've got 8 litres of oil in. All the spark plugs are out. And I've been cranking it, and it seems to be generating oil pressure. Although I've got no faith that this dial is working. Here we go. It's definitely doing something. Am I the only one here with a massive sense of foreboding? Is that 5? Don't know. Just checking the front of the engine. I've put a few new pipes on since I last looked. Make sure nothing's fouling the timing gear. Quite nice that that's leaking below, because that means that the oil pump is working all the way up to the top and draining back again. But I need to put that. Oh, it's on there. Yeah, I need to. That's been tightened up now, so it shouldn't leak anymore. Right, next part on the electrical journey, after cleaning the ground points, I have to check the wiring for the fuel pump, because that's obviously mission critical. And to do that, I'm trying to get the petrol tank down. This is how it was left. There's like one connection here for out from the pump, and this one from the bottom of the tank. And I've no idea how much fuel is in it, so I've just cut this, and you can see nice yellow fuel. I guess it'll be useful for cleaning stuff, perhaps. Or maybe even I'll treat the mower to it. The mower loves this sort of shit. I bypassed the fuel pump relay and I get current here. So yeah, so that should at least, we should be able to, we know we can turn the fuel pump on even if the relay doesn't work properly. We can bridge it when we're trying to start it. And then look at this. So the old fuel pipe coming off the filter, yeah, that's right, the filter, this is the one that goes to the engine, I think. It was just connected like that. Somebody had kind of broken off the proper fitting and yeah, just put the pipe over it, which is nice. I imagine there's lots of crap somewhere in the fuel system now. It kind of goes all right here, up to here, but I think, I don't know what to do. I might cut it off neatly at this point and then put some tube over, or I might take it back to here and do this and put it over the flare there. I don't quite know yet. Need to get that. Does that roll bar link look okay? Fuel tank cradle back together. So I've got some 10mm that fits perfectly over that flange, and now I'm just extending the wires to go to the fuel pump. So luckily, from my Mercedes-Benz loom, I've managed to find an exactly the same red and green and an exactly the same brown to go through, which is immensely satisfying. Next steps on the cradle, which is pretty shite. So the assumptions that we start with are that the legs are kind of okay. So they're saying this is kind of okay and this is kind of okay. So I think we start with that premise, then we can start to think about rebuilding this bit and that bit. And so the first thing I've done is I've cut some metal and bent it to fit here. So this will connect to this, and this will connect to this bit here. And I'm making it up as I go along, so I don't know what I'm going to do next. I think I might cut a horseshoe that goes all the way around here and see how that works. Then it will loop over here, and that will replace that bit, I think. And let's see where we get to. Decided to break it down into straight lines. There's a straight line here and a straight line here, so I can make easy bits. So I've just bent this bit of metal to go here, which I will cut here so that it can join this bit, and cut here so that it meets probably under this bit when we're done, and I can then profile it maybe. This piece is fitting quite well. It'll fit snug, and this is off. Started to do the curve here, and then I've made this piece, which I'm going to start cutting so that it goes round like a filleted radius. And we'll see where we get to on that one. So I hope this will bend round into a curve. The top bits will get closer together and the bottom bits will get wider apart, and then I guess I can shave so that it sits relatively nicely, and then I can weld the gaps, the bigger ones at the bottom. Seems to be working pretty well. Just got to keep cutting back so those gaps remain or close up as I mould it. So I have to keep cutting bits out, but slowly but surely we'll get something that describes that arc that I can weld. I think this is working pretty well. Got a nice curve coming around. I think actually I've got enough here. I'm going to continue all the way down there and scrap this bit, and we'll use it down here somewhere. Yeah, that should be fine. That's now ready to be tacked up, I think, before I bend it too much and it comes apart, but it is looking pretty good. Now I've got it tacked. I think it's pretty good now. I'm liking it. Now I think I'm going to just go around and weld all these bits up, and then I guess the next bit will be over here. Then we'll start thinking about a lid or something. Lots of fiddling coming along. Kind of joined up there. So I made this piece, which will do this bit and join to there, and then we'll have a ring. Then I can patch onto this bit, I think. It needs some work, but I'm going to leave the rest of it, because as we said at the start, I'm assuming this is fine. Now we're getting somewhere. Got the frame together. Now that bit these bits welded up. And the next thing is to make sure it's all flat. And then weld these bits up. And then, yeah, I wonder if we should then cut this apart and put it back together again with the new bits. To see, that's the trickiest bit, is maintaining dimensions. Kind of in a shape now. It's a bit hot. Yeah, it's looking okay, I think. I have to go and offer it up to the petrol tank to see how it actually fits, but I think it'll be all right. Taking shape. Really annoying. I ran out of gas on the welder, so I'm having to use gasless, and it's horrible. Flux cord stuff. It's really like welding with sparklers. But anyway, got to keep going. I'm going to put the leg on now in the same position, and then I'll transfer all the others over too. I've now severed the fuel pump and filter carriage, cleaned it up to the spot welds, and now I'm ready to start fitting it onto the new structure. A bit more finishing, but it's looking good. I offered it up to the car. Kind of seems a tiny bit shorter, but I think that's because the petrol tank has obviously slumped slightly. Yeah, looking horrible. It should be functional. So it's almost in its final form. I've offered it up and it fits. Made a couple of minor adjustments. Now I need to figure out what to do on this bit. I've also got to put some stuff on here, a plate on here to strengthen it, because that's almost all the way through. So I've cut this bit, and that goes on there like that, and it raises slightly to go over the bulge at the bottom of the tank. So I'm going to weld that in, and then put straps to keep the height. Well, it's on. It's not quite a perfect fit. It's a bit slack, I don't know why. But all the other ones are tight. So take it off and paint it now. A bit more tidying up. We're now on day 2 of this. It's taken a lot longer than I thought. I'm calling it Frankenstein's Cradle. I've had it on and off the car a couple of times, and it's weird because it's really important how you tighten up the cradle bolts, in which order. And so I think it's pretty much quite well fitting at the moment, especially when I put the foam back on to protect the fuel tank. There seems to be space. It's not perfect, but it's there. I'm just doing the last bit. So this bit was completely rotten. I've just bent a piece to go in there. I'll cut it down the sides and then fit it. And I think that's the last I'm going to do, because to be honest, yeah, this is kind of like putting stents in an old person. Going to give it a lease of life, but let's face it, it's not going to live forever. It's not like me, of course. Right, I've ground it and cleaned it as much as I can. Got the bit ready to go in. Do some Franken welding. Job should be an almost good one. This has been on and off millions of times. I've spared you the adjustments, but like I've had to move that one out and move that one in, so that the straps get reasonably tight, and then move the fuel pump and filter carrier outwards. And now it seems to fit okay, and I think I'm now chasing the last 5% of accuracy, so this is as it's gonna be. I'm a bit worried about this one because that is pretty thin. It got the feel, but I think it's all right. It's gonna be in tension. My galvanized stuff coming this week. I think when I can be bothered, I'm gonna put another braces here to keep this bit off the dome at the bottom. It's nasty. This gasless welding stuff is almost impossible. I guess there's some learning to be done. So for the final fitment, well, not the final, but the fitment, the next stage in putting the cradle on is to do it with the pipes in. So a nice new pipe on the outlet of the tank. This was the old one. Like a wizard sleeve, as they say. Maybe they don't say, but anyway, yeah, that's now replaced. I can leave it in, guide it through the cradle, and then cut it to length when I've got the fuel filter and fuel pump on. And then, more interestingly, this side, this is the fuel feed that goes to the front of the car, I think. It's jammed solid, so I've got the only time ever that I think I made use of my cheap shit nut splitter. I've been grinding, and then I got a bit worried about petrol fumes, even really stale ones. Anyway, haven't exploded yet, and this looks like it's about to come off, and so I can hopefully remove this nut and this nut here, and then use whatever flange is on here to put pipe on and replace this foam covered one, because I'm not sure these are available or I want to pay for one. Cradle final mounting before I take it off and do some more rust removal and paint it with cold galvanizing stuff that's in the post. So that's the feed to the engine going in to this pipe here along with the fuel pump under here and then out, and then this pipe will go on the fuel filter outlet here, which is angled. The electrics go onto the fuel pump here. The outlet from the tank will come out here and go onto the inlet of the fuel pump there. And then with my bargain eBay buffers, which are like £2 each as opposed to 10 quid each if you want to buy the real thing, I'll spend a few minutes making this pipe. So this pipe in metal is really lovely and satisfying, but it's about 100 quid to buy. And so for testing, I'm going to route this one, but I'm going to route it in a better way that isn't like so near the road. Yeah, and the cradle fits snugly, and I think it'll have enough space and give to take the foam than's necessary. So yeah, all in all, the Franken cradle should work quite well. Right, so snagging list for, I'm going to take this, I've got to take the cradle off to paint it, and I need to do a few things when I'm getting it off next. So one is longer tube on this one so that it goes further round, because I'm worried it'll chafe here. I got to terminate the ground onto this one, so I need to buy a hoop. And on this one I want to put 4 copper washers instead of 2, because I think it might leak. And then I think we're good to go. Oh, and a Jubilee clip here and a Jubilee clip on the other one. I'm not sure I'm going to put a Jubilee clip on this one, the fat one, because it's on the suction line, so it probably doesn't need one, and they're on there pretty tight. We'll see. But all in all, yeah, that's very, very close to being functional. And I guess the next bit after this is to see if I can buy or fabricate a a cover that goes, there's a lip that goes in here, and then there's two bolts that were ground off up here, which would, two M6s, which would secure it. That's for another day, I think. Time to start painting the cradle. I'm going to do one bit at a time, because the minute that I clean it, it starts to get a bit rusty again. The metal's in pretty shitty condition on this leg, but let's see. I've got this stuff. Rich with zinc. It's like 90% or something. I can't remember. Anyway, it's conductive, and so it should be sacrificial. We'll see, and I'm putting it straight on. It says not to use rust cure under it because it can create an insulating effect. So I'm putting it straight on. It goes on quite nicely, and it smells exactly like Airfix paint, which is great. It's kind of the same colour as well, battleship grey. I guess I'll be spraying it some funky black colour afterwards, but yeah. I might put a multimeter on it afterwards to see if it is actually conductive. But yeah, it's a million times better. And then I'll have to decide, am I going to hide this fantastic welding? Or am I just going to paint it? I mean, when I say hide, I mean grind. Ugh, this gasless stuff. It's horrible. It's kind of monstrous. But here's the Franken cradle, painted black, as the industry demands. It can have a multitude of sins, but it's not pretty. Not by a long shot. Anyway, it's painted with a load of cold galvanizing and then sprayed with some of Lidl's finest, middle of Lidl shite paint. High temperature, it says. So anyway, just going to give it a bake in the sun, stick some new foam on, and then get it on. For better or for worse, it's in now. Cradle's in permanently. I did what I said. Mostly, I've elongated that tube there. I haven't put two washers in there yet, but I can do that if it weeps. And the cradle's in. It does seem remarkably vulnerable out the back here. I know that there's supposed to be a cover that slots in and stuff, but still, that's some major pumping shit going on. And fuel. Right. So, I'm going to test the fuel pump circuit today. So on this car, I think that the fuel pump only works when the distributor is turning, and it gives a signal to the injection control unit in there via the green wire. So if I turn it over, then should get a signal. We should get petrol pumping. I've put like half a gallon of the old petrol back in to see what happens. And the reason we know the pump's working, and yesterday, interestingly, when I raised the headlights, the pump triggered a little bit, so the circuit's working. That's probably due to a short circuit, not a short circuit, like a bad contact somewhere. Yet another bad contact. But anyway, let's see how we go. I've uncovered the inlet ports. Yeah, I don't think I can break it. The new battery line is in, seems to be cranking, so let's give it a go. Battery line on. Oh, and yeah, didn't know if I mentioned it, but that's a new ground cable and bolt. Right, let's go. Yeah, it's got a bad connection there. Right. Nothing. Still no joy on getting some fuel on the signal from the distributor, so I figured I'd have a look at the connector, and that one was pretty gummed up. And I've sprayed it down here. between the contacts. Let's see, I don't know if anything else needs to be connected for this to work. Let's see, right. Nothing. I'm going to try bridging the relay now just to check that we do get fuel coming through. Okay, so bridging the fuel pump. Got me a little bridge. That's those two terminals. It's running, I can hear it. And wow, there's some frothy shit coming in there. Let's stop it. Okay. So I've tried again, this time with this earth connected, because I figured maybe that was an earth back to the unit, but still nothing. I've taken the distributor cap off, that's turning. What I don't know is whether we need to have the coil attached for the this thing to work. I thought it would kind of be a passive thing that gave a signal through electromagnetic stuff, but I'm going to try and connect the coil now. And then this is the original coil wire, and this is some intersect with the alarm, which I'm going to have to take out. It's an aftermarket alarm, so I've chopped it off. I'm going to make 2 new terminals and put the coil in, and then the king lead onto here, and then see if we can't get something happening. Coil is in, re-terminated the wires, and I've also checked these resistors, these ballast resistors here, which reduce the voltage to the coil. There's 2 of them, and one of them is taken out of line when you're cranking. So there's a line that comes direct from the starter motor. So let's see if that completes the circuit. That may mean we get a fuel signal. This is immensely satisfying. Keep your eyes on that. And I'm cranking, and so on the crank signal we should get pump, and look. Plenty of petrol coming through, which is great. Okay, so now we know that we have 2 things. 1, the green wire is working because we're getting signals. 2, that the ignition system needs to be in line to get it to work. So that's great. Also means the fuel relay is working. Also great. So now I think I can move to, I guess, purging these lines, but that's been through 2, so I could put some new fuel in and purge that line, connect it up, and then circulate back out and clear that line, and also connect the rest of the ignition. Okay, so this is what the old fuel looks like. So what I'm going to do now that I've got I know that it's kind of working in terms of the electrics and things, I'm going to flush the system with new petrol until it goes clean. So this is for reference. I've got a remote switch wired in through the relay contact, so I can turn the fuel pump on and off, and we'll go from there. Okay, first batch of new petrol. I imagine this is going to be lawnmower grade. There we go, it's primed now. Ooh, okay, that's nice. Stop that there, because I wonder if that's being diluted from what's already in the pipes. I'm going to pour that away and start again. Before and after, I'm going to go with this. I think it's definitely colour rather than particles and things. So yeah, I'm going to connect up the the fuel and run it through the distributor and see what happens. Here's test. So connected at the inlet, which we've rinsed a few times. It's going into the distributor, and here's the fuel return going into here so we can see what comes out. And then, as I understand it, I should be able, nothing should come out until I press the plate in there. But let's just see what happens with this. Something's happening. I can hear gurgles. Can't hear much else really. Oh, I've got a leak. I've got a leak. Oh, fuck. Buku leak. It looks like it's coming. Out of the side, perhaps. Oh, that's not good. And you've got some fuel coming out. Oh, and then I bet the accumulator is still working. So it's pissing fuel everywhere. Anus. Ooh. Now that's interesting. Know what that means? Some have none. So quite a few leaks, and I think coming from between the casing. So the fuel distributor is connected again. I rebuilt it again. It's still leaking, but not leaking so much, so I can do a bit of a test on the injectors. And they seem to be all right, the injectors. There's still something wrong with the distributor because this one and that one are leaking, even in idle, with the plate closed. But it's quite satisfying. If I turn the pump on, and here that one is leaking. That one is leaking a little bit less, but then if I go, the banshees start wailing. Man, can you imagine all that fuel going in? That's why it does 15 miles to the gallon. Anyway, up for another rebuild on this. And we'll go from there. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the problem child is, well, 6 was leaking a little bit, but number 2, the rest of them are pretty much kind of close, but considering we have leaks, I think that's good enough for now, like in terms of major defects. I'll just strip it down again and see if I can get out the bolts that I over torqued, which have snapped, which is probably why it's leaking now. But anyway, a step forward. Well, I'd say we're 90% there, getting very, very close to trying to see if it'll start. We've got the fuel system sorted all the way up until the fuel distributor, I guess. And now we need to do the interplay between the fuel distributor and the warm-up regulator, set the pressures and all that good stuff, put the injectors in, We know the ignition system is probably all right. So yeah, we're gonna go for it in the next episode. For those of you that have bothered to watch to the end of the video, here is my new desk chair, made out of a Porsche 928C. This is all part of the rehabilitation of the seats that I've been doing, which will come in a later episode. So stay tuned for that. It's an exceedingly comfortable desk chair. And I'm going to electrify it at some point. I think it's got all the buttons in. Yeah, I've got some motors. Yeah, good.